Hi, I am Sarah. I'm so excited to be here today and share yoga, the practice of yoga, blended with insights from the scriptures and the gospel of Jesus Christ. I love blending the two together. Personally, it has been a tool to increase my awareness of the Lord's hand in everyday life. And it's been a opening of mindfulness of how to bring the scriptures and applying them in just actions and habits and things that we go through in everyday life. So I wanted to start with 3rd Nephi chapter 27 through 4th Nephi. That's kind of the block or the chunk that I'm focusing on in the Book of Mormon. And it's an interesting little perspective. Mormon is actually combining different records of history to condense things down. And every once in a while, even though he's just writing the things exactly how they've been written, every once in a while he'll sneak in and kind of offer his own perspective as the narrator, kind of reading and gathering the information. And he does that in chapter 28, which is where we're going to focus in on in this practice today. And he actually goes through this process, and I'll briefly explain the process and then share what I found to be kind of a step-by-step process. But he realized as he was, writing things down that he didn't know, he didn't understand something. And he had a place of humility where he was like, I just don't get this. And then he moves forward, and in verse 18, he focuses on what he does know. And he actually writes much of what he does know. And then we again go to verse 36, and he's like, there's still things I don't know, and there's still things I don't understand. And it's clearly a place of curiosity and a place of, this is interesting. I do know some things. There's other things that I don't. And there's a place of humility with it. In verse 37, he chooses to inquire and ask the Lord. And then we see that his mind is opened to learn a little more. And this process to me just unfolded as kind of a little 5-step process for when we have questions and things that we don't know. I think it begins with number 1, an awareness that it's okay to not know. And that sometimes takes a little bit of humility and a little bit of curiosity. I don't know, and that's okay. Second, focus on what we do know, and maybe even take the time to write down what it is we do know. Third, even when we focus on what we do know, recognizing that it's okay to still not know and to still have questions and to still be curious about things. And 4, to take those questions to the Lord. Not always Google, but take them to the Lord and see what he can share with you. And 5th, as we do that, in the Lord's timing, we learn a little more, line upon line, precept on precept. And this process reminded me of scripture in Doctrine and Covenants. It's section 88, verse 63, and it says, "Draw near unto me, and I will draw near unto you. Seek me diligently, and ye shall find me. Ask, and ye shall receive. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Whatsoever you ask the Father in my name, it shall be given unto you." And what a beautiful meditative process to walk into, right? A beautiful intention of prayer to have things that we're questioning about and to wonder, and just to wonder, right? In General Conference, which is kind of like TED Talks for the leaders of our church, we just had it recently, and Russell Ballard gave a beautiful example of prayer. In fact, his whole message was about prayer. And in it, he said these words. He said, "The best way to help the current world situation is for all people to rely more fully upon God and to turn their hearts to him through sincere prayer. Humbling ourselves and seeking heaven's inspiration to endure or conquer what is before us will be our safest and surest way to move confidently forward through these troubling times." You guys, prayer is beautiful. And in this message, he outlines kind of 3 concepts of prayer, and ways to bring prayer into everyday life. And the first is to pray, and the second is to stay humble. The same thing that we kind of heard in Mormon's message. And the third is to do what we can to help, to focus on what we do know and to go do those things that we can. And I love how both of their insights just blended together so beautifully. And feel free to dive into those more. Today, I'm going to move forward with applying these tools into the yoga practice and what that really looks like. So prayer in and of its essence is a form of meditation. And when we think of meditation, sometimes we put meditation in one box and we put prayer over in another box, but I offer the idea of blending those two together. And sometimes prayer and meditation can really enhance that connection of uniting the mind, the body, and the spirit, right? That's yoga. Yoga is to unite. And so I'll talk through today 3 different ways to bring yoga and prayer and meditation all flowing into one. These can be done anytime, any place, anywhere that speaks to you. And the first is just to start in a seated pose and come in with a specific mantra meditation. I love beginning even just a precursor to prayer. Sometimes we might notice our thoughts, and maybe you can relate, but our brains are just rolling through lots of things. Maybe there's some problems that we just can't solve or we can't figure out, and we find ourselves just ruminating in that hamster wheel of, I can't figure this out. And a place that I like to go to, rather than trying to solve all those things that just aren't solvable right now, is to go to a place of love. And that begins with just a simple inhale and exhale, slowing things down, recognizing what I'm feeling in my body, recognizing that I can intentionally breathe, and then just repeating this mantra meditation, which you've heard me share before if you've watched any previous videos, but if you're new, the mantra meditation is, I love and accept you, and then say your name. So I would say Sarah. I inhale and I say that to myself. I love and accept you, Sarah. And then I exhale. I love and accept you, Sarah. And the reason why this is so powerful is because it focuses on loving ourself from a higher place. Regardless of any of those things or situations or circumstances, we're just slowing down and we're saying, yes, but there's love. And we just take a minute to open and to feel that space within us. For me, that is a beautiful reminder of that first step that Mormon talks about of, I've got questions, I've got problems that I'm not able to solve in my brain all by myself, but I slow down into that space of love and I say, that's okay. I don't need to. That's a place of humility. It's okay not to know. And it opens up a little crack, a little opening for some curiosity. So as I breathe in that space, that is a beautiful place to stay, and you're welcome to just stay in that throughout the practice today. I'm going to offer a couple other tools and methods this morning, and that comes into child's pose. Again, child's pose is very grounding. It's a beautiful space to come to, especially as we're starting to open those hearts and open those minds just a little bit more. Drawing the big toes together, the knees nice and wide. We can come into this space, and maybe with intention, we begin to think about those things that we are praying for, and for an expansion of ideas of what to pray for. I again reference that talk given by Russell Ballard, who shares incredibly beautiful perspectives of thoughts of who and what to pray for, and really expansive, abundant in so many ways. But maybe we come into that and we just start to think about those things in our awareness that we hold in our hearts, and we just open them with our minds and with our breath. And sometimes we might choose to just stay in this space and just breathe and release any of that we're holding on to. And sometimes we might draw from this one specific thing that we want to pray for, to bring into our minds with intention. And this can be a beautiful thing to carry with us into a sun salutation. What this does is it brings what it is that we're praying for to our minds and helps us focus on it for a specific amount of time. And we get to do that as we unite the mind and the body and the spirit. So we can bring that unification and stay still in child's pose, or we can gaze towards those fingertips, shift our weight forward, and work through a kneeling salutation. So we're taking top of our mind, focusing on that one specific thing that we want to draw deeper into our minds and hearts. And we inhale with that thought, and we exhale, lowering down. Inhale through cobra. Exhale, pressing the palms into the earth and reach back. And we keep thinking about that specific thing. Now, whatever it is that we choose to think about is limitless, but I'll give an example just to help teach this principle. Let's say, for example, that we are wanting to pray for maybe something or a specific situation. Maybe we're praying to have patience. And we inhale and exhale patience. And we think about the word patience, and we let go of those thoughts of maybe how we aren't patient, right? Or the opposite of patience, but we just focus on patience. So if those thoughts creep in, we let them go and we focus on what patience could feel like, what it could look like, what it sounds like. We could also expand this into a person. Maybe we're praying for someone specific, and we're thinking about how we can be with that person. And we could expand into a deeper sun salutation practice. I'm going to offer just a half modified one today. So we work through those knees, or we work through another modified version of just a simple flow on those toes. And we just inhale towards plank, exhale, lower down, inhale, reaching up, and then exhale, expanding back into downward facing dog. And again, just repeating this modified flow, shifting forward, exhaling down, shifting forward and lifting up, and then exhaling and reaching back. And again, each round could offer a different focus. Each round could offer the same focus repeated over and over. I offer you to do whatever it is that speaks to you. Beautiful. And then as we've worked through as many times as we choose, maybe 6 or 8 or 1, as we come into that last space, slow it down just a little bit. And again, whether we're in that child's pose, holding that breath, whether we're working on the knees, whether we're coming up on the toes, we're taking each of those places and just slowing them down, letting ourselves soak in that space. And if we're not already there, joining in downward facing dog. And using these expansive breaths to again bring that mind back, the wandering mind, bringing it back. Again, focusing on those thoughts. And you might choose to stay here for 2 or 3 breaths. You might choose to stay here for 10. Again, I just offer you to take that however it speaks to you, and then as you finish that last breath, coming back into the seated position. And take a few moments before moving and going on to other things in life, grounding those hands or opening those palms up to receive. Again, opening, drawing that head, heart in alignment. And just taking this time to listen, to be still, you may want to have a notebook or something where you can jot down thoughts if they come to mind. You may just notice feeling that love that we began with for you, or for whatever situation or person you might be thinking of as well. And in this space is where you may even continue and deepen into a further prayer as a tool to continue that conversation with our Heavenly Father and continuing that conversation with the Lord. And with that, I offer to you to bring this into your week. I've taught kind of the rundown and the tools. I want you to take those 1 or 2 tools that speak to you from this and go try them out this week. Make it a intentional practice to do them every day. Just a couple minutes, 5 minutes, just gathering into that space and see what comes up. As always, the light within me honors the light within you. Thank you so much for being part of this experience with me, and hope you have an amazing week. Bye.